Hi, my name is Chef Will Medina with Varasano's Pizzeria, and I'm going to show you how to butterfly chicken breast. First, we're going to go over with some of the things that we're going to need in order to do this. Of course, we need a knife, nice sharp knife, cutting board, color-coded cutting board for raw chicken breast. We're going to use plastic wrap, cellophane paper, and we're going to have a wet towel here. The wet towel is to stabilize your cutting board. Just lay it across on the bottom, put the cutting board right on top. It's really going to make your surface really firm and secure. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to peel off about 5 to 6 sheets of plastic wrap. The reason we do this is because we're also going to use a tenderizing mallet. Tenderizing mallet has a few peaks in it, and it can tear the plastic. So we just want to be sure that we have enough layers to finish our job. Once we're done, you can get rid of this plastic wrap. Pick up your sheets of plastic and you just fold it over, because what we're going to do is we're actually going to put the chicken in the middle of this thing, fold it down, and we'll actually use this tenderizing mallet right here and pound out the chicken. So I'm going to put this to the side and show you what the chicken breast looks like. What we buy here is a random cuts of boneless, skinless chicken breast. This is what it looks like before we process it. When you put it on the cutting board, first thing you're going to do is cut off random pieces of the chicken breast. Kind of fatty, they're off to the end, they're probably pieces of chicken wing that we really have no use for. So once you take those off, you just throw them right away. Turn it over, and you'll see some more fatty stuff, especially in the middle. It's almost like a cartilage, a vein, coming like right here of the chest of the chicken breast. Cut off one side, put the chicken aside, and then you come off maybe about 1/8 of an inch to that cartilage, and you just get that other side right off and throw that right away. Then that gives you an opportunity to look over your chicken breast and get any other fatty areas right off. Okay, once you've done that, it's pretty clean. Just want to show you really quick. Your chicken breast here, there's different thicknesses of the whole breast. One side's really thick, the other side's really thin. It's one of the big reasons why we butterfly chicken breast, is to have a more even cook. If we were just to try to cook this thing the way it is, one side will be overdone, the other side will be okay. So we really want to get consistent on here, and that's the biggest reason we butterfly. So now, what you want to do is kind of look at this chicken breast here. You have one side pretty straight and even, the other side kind of bows out, and you have a little curve here. And what we want to do, we're going to actually cut into this side and not all the way through. We'll stop maybe 1/8 to 1/16 of an inch going this way, and then we're actually going to fold this thing open, and you're going to see a butterfly. And what I like to do is get the chicken breast right to the edge of the cutting board here. This is where you start out. Put your hand right on top of it, and what you're doing is you're feeling for the thickness of the chicken breast. A lot of times in the chicken breast there'll be a tenderloin that has been ripped out, and it might not have been ripped out. If it's been ripped out, you're going to feel a big difference on thickness inside the chicken breast. So what you're doing is you're putting your hand down and you're really trying to feel where that thickness might be. Now you get your knife and you start off on the top with your hand across the top of the chicken breast. Start the base of the knife down here, and the reason we start down here is because this will give you a cutting action, cutting motion all the way through the knife. Okay, so we start all the way over here, and as you're letting your knife go through the chicken breast, you're actually feeling the blade under your hand. So you really know where the blade is going on the chicken knife, so you won't cut too far and actually cut the breast in half. So we're going down, and we're allowing the whole knife to go inside the chicken. And as we go down and the knife comes out, we've made a cut. But guess what? It hasn't gone all the way through. So what you're going to do now is you're going to kind of open up and you're going to see a seam inside the chicken. When you see that seam in there, you're going to allow your knife to run across that seam very slowly, and little by little you fold over. You fold over, and you continue to do this until you get to the edge of the other side of the chicken, that straight seam, if you will. Okay, once we do that, once you've reached the point where you think you're pretty cool, over here I can go a little bit more, so I will. Now the key is to have a very sharp knife. Okay, once you've reached where you want to be on the cut, and you pick it up, you see it kind of looks like a butterfly. So hence, you have a butterfly chicken. That's the first part of this thing. I'm going to take the other part of the chicken breast and put it to the side. We really don't need that right now. I'm going to put this over here. I'm going to take my knife. I'm going to put it in the area where I know it's going to be sanitized later. We don't want to cross-contaminate. Now I'm going to grab my plastic wrap, open it up, lay it across the cutting board. I want to mention one thing really quick. I'm going to take off my gloves and I'm going to add maybe 2 more kitchen towels. I'm going to wet them up, and I'm going to wet them, and then I will wring them out, and I'm going to add it to the padding underneath the cutting board. The reason I do this is to absorb my blows when I'm coming down with chicken breast, and it'll allow me to get a lot more force into the chicken breast and not all over the board itself. And it'll be less noisy. Okay, let me get another pair of gloves on. Okay, once you have your plastic ready to go, you're going to put your chicken breast right in the middle. You're going to fold it over. And then again, your hands are really a good indicator of where you're going to pound your mallet at. On your mallet, you have 2 different sides. You have some really high peaks here and some low ones. The high ones is really to break down the real thick parts of your chicken. Kind of want to hit them 2 or 3 times to see how far you can go, because you really have to watch it. You can damage the chicken, you can bust holes in it, and it'll be useless. So you hit it a couple times with the really high peaks, and then you finish off with the low peaks. And I'll show you what I mean by that. I'm going to turn this over to the side a little bit just because I'm right-handed and I know where my high peaks are right now. It's really thick on my left side, so I'm going to hit it with the high peaks. And as I go, in between my blows, I'm feeling the chicken. I want to see how thick it is versus my thin part of the chicken. Now once I'm getting even there, because I'm already starting to get even. I'm already starting to get real even here. That's when I'm going to turn this mallet over. I'm going to turn this mallet over, and this low peaks, these smaller peaks, are really going to do the rest of the work for me. It's going to thin everything out. It's going to fill up this the plastic fold that I have here, and then we'll be good to go. So when you pound down, also I need to mention the motion is down and then pretty much out. You spread out from the chicken. You work your way from the middle out. So you pound and come out like that. Okay? And at the same time, between every blow, you're feeling the chicken, because, I mean, one good blow, you can really ruin everything. So you're feeling it out. Again, so from the bottom, I hit the middle and I go down. On the top, I hit the middle and I go up. Just for consistency, I turn the whole plastic over. And I start feeling. Okay, everything feels pretty even right now. So I'm going to get it right side up. I'm going to get my fold, open that up, and I'll show you really quick. I'll pick this up. This is good. There is some breakdown of the flesh, but everything's really even if you can look at that. Okay, I'm going to discard my plastic here. Then I'm going to take my knife that I've already used and it's in a separate area so there's no cross-contamination. And I'm just going to cut this right in half. I don't need the whole butterfly. If I needed the whole butterfly, I would leave it. Okay, I've thrown away my gloves because we're going to put together our little marinade for our chicken breast here. We're actually using the garlic oil mixture. And we'll take a little teaspoon of it. You get a little bit of garlic in there. It doesn't have to be just all oil. If you get a little garlic in there, that's fine. We just add some oil to it. And then a pinch of salt and pepper. Just want to keep in mind, for demo purposes, I'm just doing one breast here. So if we were prepping for service, of course there'll be a lot more, and that's why I'm having to take off my gloves on and off. Once you have your oil, salt, pepper, just give it a quick little toss, mix it in there really good, and then you're going to layer it in the third pan evenly on top of each other. There you have it. This is our boneless, skinless chicken breast. It's been butterfly and marinated, ready to be grilled off.
Okay, now we've let our chicken marinate. It can marinate anywhere from at least 2 to 3 hours, as long as overnight. Right, Willie?
Right.
Okay, great. So that's been sitting there with garlic, oil, salt, and pepper. Now, we're going to grill it off on a grill pan. Of course, if you have a charbroiler or any other piece of equipment you have, but we're going to just give this little demo with this grill pan. It's a cast iron grill pan that's been pretty well seasoned. How do we know when the grill pan is ready? It's been heating up for a few minutes now. How do we know when it's hot enough to bake off our chicken?
Well, you really want to take notice to your grill marks on the actual pan. When they start getting a little white and chalky in color, that's when you know when you're pretty hot. In between the grill marks, if that area starts getting kind of white in color, you're basically overheating the pan at that point, and any type of meat you would put on there to get grilled will burn on one side before it's ready to flip.
Okay. Explain to us now, Willie, we have sort of a color coding system for our tongs. Explain the different colors that we use and why.
Sure. Here at Varasano's, we use 3 different colors. We have a red, a yellow, and a blue. The red's going to be for our fully cooked meats.
So we're just going to use that really to take the meat off the pan.
Right at the end. That's the only time we're going to use this.
Okay.
The yellow is going to be for our raw chicken, and the blue is going to be for the seafood, which we'll use raw and cooked.
Okay, I got it. All right, so we could use the yellow tongs to get the meat on the pan, but explain the problem that we've had with that.
Correct. If we grab the tongs and use it for the chicken, the chicken's really floppy. So once we try to get it on the grill plate, there might be a time where it'll fold over and you'll have one area cooking and another area still raw. So just for placement purposes, to kind of get it in the exact area you want, we will use a glove. And also it'll give us an opportunity to flatten out that chicken and make sure that the whole surface is laid on the grill pan properly.
Right. So if we lay it wrong with the tongs, it's sort of difficult to recover because the meat really sticks to the pan the second.
Right, and if you have a nice hot grill plate like you should, it's going to start cooking right away, and you don't have that much time.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's put on a glove.
Sure. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the thicker part of the breast, which is usually this rounded part area of the chicken breast, and I'm going to hold that up high, and I'm going to lay it down on the grill plate with the thinner part down first, and when I drop it down, it's going to be going away from me. The reason we do that is, we definitely marinate this thing in olive oil, and if there's a certain area where there's a lot more olive oil, that hot surface can have that olive oil pop on you, and you might get burned.
Right, especially if there's some water mixed with the olive oil, it can pop. As a general rule, folks, when you are laying anything onto a hot pan, whether it's to saute it, or whether it's to grill it or fry it, whatever you're doing, you will lay things away from you. That's a big safety rule of thumb, right?
Correct.
All right, so let's go ahead and lay this down, starting with the thin side, then we're laying it away. Great.
Now, when we put this chicken down, we're going to listen for a sizzle and not a pop. Because if we get a pop, you're pretty much too hot. If you can tell right now, the sizzle's fading, and that's a good thing because the meat's cooking and it's not too hot. It's not a consistent sizzle all the way through.
Right. So the sizzle is that bit of water that's on the surface of the meat, and as soon as that evaporates off, the sound is going to change a little bit. Let's go ahead and get a second piece down.
Sure.
And that what Willie just said, that meat on a grill pan or any pan should sizzle but not pop. That's a real good rule of thumb for any meat, you're making a steak or whatever. Okay, got it. All right, now how do we know when it's ready and when it's not ready to turn the meat?
Sure, no problem. I'm going to grab my color-coded tongs here. I'm grabbing the yellow because it's still raw. And if you look around the edge of this chicken, it's starting to change color. Also, you can tell my thinner areas because on top it's also changing color.
So the white cooked meat's already showing through the uncooked meat.
Exactly. You want to come in about 1/8 of an inch. Over here, we're getting ready. The thicker part of the chicken, which is this rounded part, is starting to change as well. But once we are pretty consistent around the edge of this chicken, we'll know it's ready to turn.
Right, so not surprisingly, the thinner part is turning first.
Right.
Okay, now what happens if you try and turn it too early? Let's give it a try right now to
Sure.
show. Okay. Well, that one actually is releasing, but sometimes the breast will stick to the pan, and that's when you know that it's too early, right?
Right, and it actually will tear. And then a lot of times that'll happen if you're prepping a lot on your charbroiler or your grill plate, you'll get cold spots. So then, that's when you really have to be aware of the area, and you might get some tearing going on.
Okay, well this piece is definitely, as I'm talking, this piece is definitely ready to turn. Let's turn it over. Oh, look at that beautiful char grill mark. And turn the other one also. Beautiful marks on that. Now, we're going to do a little test now. We're just going to show you. We're going to do a little test. We're going to poke it with a knife. It's probably not ready just yet. We're going to show you intentionally. We're going to poke it a little earlier than we might otherwise. Let's poke it right here.
Sure.
Just so I can show what it looks like when it's not done.
So what we're going to do is we're going to grab the thickest part of the meat. We'll pick it up lightly with the tongue, and with a very sharp knife, we'll make an incision. You might need to go back and forth a couple of times to make that incision. And then we'll get the knife out the way. And then we'll pick up the chicken with the tongue in that incision. And if you can really look closely, it's kind of pink in color.
Right, there's definitely a piece of uncooked chicken in it, so that's not ready to go.
So we'll just leave that going until it's ready.
Now, same thing that was true with the tongs is true with the knife. That knife that we just poked this meat with, that we just put down on a surface that's for dirty.
Correct. We will not use that again in any area, and that's called cross-contamination.
Right, until it's sanitized. And we can use it for other pieces of chicken that we're testing, but not for pieces that are finished and cooked and ready to come off.
Correct.
Okay, how's that smaller piece looking? Is that ready to go?
Sure, we can go ahead and, for argument's sake, I'll get my knife out of the area that's not sanitized back over here so we can check again. And we'll just get a quick pour on the breast here. Now we'll pick up the chicken right where I made that incision and pretty much look in there and check to make sure.
Now it's juicy, but all the juices are clear and there's nearly no pink.
Right.
Okay, so that breast is pretty much done.
And it's pretty much done. Turn it over really quickly. Just to
turning it over is good because if you're using the knife that was just touching raw chicken a second ago, you're just making sure you sear off or sanitize anything that's touched. So you just need a couple of seconds on that. That you can see is definitely still raw. There's no doubt about it. Still piece of raw chicken in there. Flipping that over again. Great. So I think the small piece can come off.
Definitely.
All right. So now we're going to switch to our other set of tongs. Okay. Let's switch to the red
really
tongs.
Quick on my incision.
Great. Now we're going to switch to the red tongs. Okay. All right. And now we're going to take that and we're just going to move that to a cutting board. And we're going to let that sit for at least 5 minutes, right? You don't cut into meat that's just been cooked until it's sat for a few minutes and let the juices settle in.
The meat itself is still pretty hot, and that's part of the cooking process. All the juices inside the meat move around, and that's how you cook your meat.
Right.
So if you start cutting into it right away, all those juices that move around are just going to flow right onto the cutting board, and you will lose all moisture.
Right. It's like the interior is trying to boil off almost. The interior is steaming off, just like when you put a pizza in the oven, and as soon as it hits that surface, the interior of the dough starts to rise because the water that's inside the dough begins to steam out. So the steam from inside is boiling off and creating pressure to push out. You don't want that. That's not as visible here, but that's still happening inside the chicken. So if you were to cut it now, those juices would just run flowing out. So right now they're sort of sealed in. They're trying to get out, but they can't. They're sealing in there. Let them come off their boil. Let them relax.
And
there's
they will
less
settle.
pressure. There's less pressure on that on that water that's inside. So it's not as hot pushing out. And then it'll be time to cut it, and the juices will stay on the inside.
Correct.
Let's go back to our other piece.
This is about ready.
That's about ready too. Okay. Again with the red tongs. Going to put that down, and that's it. Now, talk to us a little bit about. So you got your clean knife now, right, Willie?
Yes.
Okay. So talk to us now about how we're going to cut the meat. I think this one is this one ready yet, or you want to wait a couple more minutes?
We can go ahead and cut, and if it's not ready, it'll definitely be a great example of
okay.
what's not
Let's
ready.
do that then. So let's go ahead and cut that piece of meat. Show us the cut that we want.
You want to make sure you have a glove on because this is ready to eat food. Ready to eat food, you must have a glove on because this actual piece of chicken will be going in somebody's mouth.
Okay.
So you basically just want to move your knife across, and as we cut, you're checking for each slice to make sure you cook all the way through. Remember, it's so important to check every time you cut.
Okay, great. So that's a good time to give another cut. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take that and we're going to put that into another third pan. Do we put any more salt or oil?
We most certainly do. Once the chicken's in the third pan, I'm going to go ahead and cut this piece of meat as well.
So we're cutting it fast, but we're using a little knife to just push it away and separate it. And that way we can sort of visually check it at the same time. The meat looks great, and I can tell you it smells great. Okay, now obviously we'd probably cook off a little more. But show us how we store this and how we finish it.
My pleasure. Here we have our garlic mixture, and we're going to take this top part of the oil, which is very flavorful. It's about a tablespoon there, a tablespoon and a half. And we're just going to drizzle it right over the chicken. Make sure it's coated very well. Then we will salt and pepper the area as well. Nice little pinch of salt, some pepper.
And we just sort of toss that, right?
Yeah, with our red tongs, our cooked tongs, and just move that around.
And that's it. It's ready to go.
And you would cover that up. You would day dot it, and you put it in your fridge and ready for to be served.
Great. And that goes on the salad cold. Is that right?
Correct.
It can go on actually hot or cold. It's not really a big deal. But as a general rule, we are going to break these in advance and serve it cold. And now, if that's going to go on a pizza, what do we do exactly?
We would take those strips and do an additional cut to have it cubed, basically about 1/4-inch cubes.
Okay. I think it's probably more 1/2 inch. I'd say 1/2 inch cubes.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to do 1/2 inch cubes, basically the same width as the pieces are now, but just cut so that they're square little chunks, and that's it. Be ready to go. Thanks, Willie.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.